Back in the earlier days of the internet, let's say back in the early 2010s, the free-to-play experience was drastically different than it was today. Rather than having some of the most high-class developers making free-to-play games, we were stuck with having to comb through the internet to find fun games to play. Finding those diamonds in the rough wasn't impossible. I'm sure some people remember games like Happy Wheels, Tory Bash, and Robocraft. These were all fairly popular free-to-play games in their time, each with their own followings and content made about them. These games had a charm that more modern free-to-play games don't have. There was just something special about finding a game that was made for anyone to be able to play, but now it's just a business model, designed to do nothing more than to make as much money as possible. The prices of modern microtransactions have inflated. Look at games today, like Fortnite charging $20 for a legendary skin, or Valorant charging a whopping $60 for a 2-skin bundle. Going on a much higher scale, you have items like hats in TF2 selling for thousands of dollars, and skins in Counter-Strike starting to break the $1 million mark. Now obviously to the untrained eye, these prices seem absolutely ridiculous. And the untrained eye in this case would actually be correct, as paying anywhere from the price of a AAA game to the price of a house like this for an in-game item is pretty nuts. Unfortunately though, not only is it madly popular with game developers, but also a large portion of the consumer base as well. And what is the issue? Skins don't affect gameplay and are purely cosmetic. No one is forcing you to buy these $20, $60, or $1,000 skins, so it seems reasonable that they would be popular in games today. However, at least how I see it, it is these very systems that are going to put the gaming industry into a recession. Before we get into that, we need to go into the history of free-to-play games. Back in the day, there weren't many AAA developers, if any at all, making free-to-play games. The free-to-play market was dominated by smaller indie games. Games like Happy Wheels, Tory Bash, Roblox, and Robocraft were all very popular, even warranting popular creators to make videos on them. What made these games stand out more at the time than, say, Battlefield or Call of Duty? A big part of these games' reach was accessibility. Being free-to-play grants a lower barrier of entry for anyone wanting to play the game. Creators playing these games only made them more popular, and again, with them being free, had given the game the potential to gain millions of players. Still though, back in the early 2010s, the free-to-play genre was still pretty sparse with quality games. Not to say you couldn't find the diamond in the rough, but it definitely wasn't the space it was today. To see what really kick-started the trend, we have to go back to 2017. The gaming scene was getting steamingly stale at the time, with games like Call of Duty and Minecraft starting to go on a downward trend in popularity. People were starting to get hungry for a new gaming experience. Enter PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, also known as just PUBG. PUBG was released on March 23, 2017 on the Steam Early Access program, and despite this, the game was still immensely popular following its release. What was different about this game? Well, for anyone who had been living under a rock, PUBG is a game that is attributed to popularizing the Battle Royale genre. 100 or so players on a large map with a safe zone that shrinks throughout the game. Last person or team standing wins. Not to say PUBG was the first game to have a Battle Royale, as Z1 had already been out for about 2 years at that point, and Minecraft Hunger Games could also be considered a Battle Royale, but PUBG had destroyed their expectations. Even with the price tag of $30, the game moved over 1 million copies before mid-April that year. Creators were making videos on it, streamers were streaming it like crazy, PUBG was running the internet back in 2017. With the Battle Royale being the next big craze in the scene, many companies sought to make their own spin on the Battle Royale. What followed this was possibly one of the largest global phenomena of the decade. Going to September of the same year, a little-known game at the time called Fortnite was about to make waves. Fortnite was a $40 PvE zombie shooter that had building elements kind of like Minecraft and looting elements kind of like Borderlands. On the 26th of September, Fortnite released a free Battle Royale mode on PC, Xbox, and PlayStation. Almost upon release, this Battle Royale mode was a success. It took a few short months for it to topple PUBG in terms of overall popularity, but as far as player count goes, it was never close. How was Fortnite different from PUBG? They were both Battle Royales with their own quirks, like Fortnite seeming more child-friendly while PUBG went for something more realistic. The reasons for Fortnite's success wasn't a difference in gameplay, it was a difference in accessibility. Not only did Fortnite launch with the PS4 version, but it was also completely free to download and play. This is a very good thing for Fortnite, for as the game grew more popular with creators and streamers, it would essentially funnel more and more players into the game as it reaches a wider and wider audience. Fortnite has gone on to be arguably the most recognizable game on the planet, and with its successful launch and life on the internet, it has led many other companies to chase similar heights with their games. Many companies saw going free-to-play as being a viable option for getting traction to their games. With this new trend set, many popular game franchises started going free-to-play. Games like CSGO, Rocket League, Halo, and even PUBG itself ended up giving in and decided to go free to play. And with the transition to free to play, each of these games saw all-time high, at the time, player counts. It's clear that free to play was the future, and as time would tell, this would seem to be true. Many games released since the success of Fortnite and other games going free to play have taken the same route. Valorant, Apex, Splitgate, and Warzone have all seen massive success, not due to their gameplay, but also because they are just so easy to download and play. While being free to play is an easy way to bring players to your game, you might be wondering how these can be profitable. If people don't pay for the game, then you make no money no matter how many people play it, right? Well, this is where the skins model comes into play. Remember earlier how we were talking about legendary skins and skin bundles? One of the ways these companies go about monetizing their games is by selling skins and items in an in-game item shop. Now some games conduct this kind of business differently, whether it be an outright item shop or the loot box. Going back again, remember the crazy ridiculous items from the start of the video? These items are a pretty special case. Since TF2 and CSGO are owned by Valve, items in those games are marketable and tradable between players. In both of these games, rather than letting you buy these skins outright, the game requires you to open a case, which is essentially just a loot box or trade with other players. You could spend $250 and get an item worth thousands, but, which was more likely, you would just get boned on every case. Loot boxes are very controversial for this reason, and is why they're not very popular in more modern games. This is where games like Fortnite, Valorant, and Warzone have an in-game item shop. Rather than having a random loot box system, these games opted for an in-game item store where you can purchase skins. These items will be rotated daily or weekly depending on the game, but it's essentially the same implementation. This was another trend yet again popularized by Fortnite with its V-Bucks system. This led to the common pricing scheme that is seen in many games today. Around $20 for the high tier or legendary skins, around $10-15 for the cleaner looking skins, and then around $5 or $8 for the pretty cheesy skins. Many games follow a very similar pricing scheme, with some exceptions, but we'll get into that a bit later. With the move to free to play in full swing, the item shop was finding its place in most games. Rocket League switched from crates to an item shop system, and as more games were released, it became clear that the item shop was a must for multiplayer games going forward. Think of literally any multiplayer game. Fall Guys, Halo, Warzone. From children's games to games with the most die-hard fan bases, the item shop was well on its way in, as well as the free-to-play trend. This isn't to say that things were always good with item shops, as they had their fair share of controversies. Everyone likes to joke about kids stealing their parents' credit cards, but this has happened more than once. Kids spending £1,500, $20,000 US, the horror stories are everywhere, and this is just on Fortnite. Kids spending absolutely absurd amount of money on games has been a big thing since FIFA, and with the perpetuation of the item shop in most games, it's only bound to get worse. Not to say that the company holds all the accountability, as much as that falls on the parents. However, many of these companies were reluctant to refund the massive amount of money spent, so take that as you will. Many of these companies have also downright stolen work for these games. Warzone has many instances of this. For example, Dr. Disrespect skin, Flu Fury, Love Drunk Melody, just to name a few. Fortnite has had its fair share of controversy with their emotes. There just seems to be an issue with corporations thinking they're immune to copyright. And I guess you are if you have enough money to throw at lawyers. Skins have also become a sort of social construct, so to speak. Everyone knows the stereotypes, like if someone's using a default skin, then they're more than likely a noob. But did you know that this is actually a pretty big issue in Fortnite? Kids who didn't have skins were directly targeted harassed, and I'm not just talking about the default trolling videos. These kids were subject to legitimate verbal harassment and bullying in-game. And again, the game companies are not responsible for the behavior of people who play the game, but many of these games have shoddy report systems at best, and these companies don't necessarily discourage its behavior either. After all, it drives more money into the game. Another way these companies have sought to drive money into their game is the use of the Battle Pass. Now I know you're wondering what a Battle Pass is, so let me give you a brief crash course. The Battle Pass is a reward system that a player can buy in order to get in-game loot by completing special daily and weekly challenges in-game. The first example of Battle Pass system would be Operations in CSGO. Players would purchase an Operation Pass in order to have access to gain special in-game drops and rewards during the operation. TF2 pretty much had the exact same thing with the campaign passes. The first example of a more modern Battle Pass comes from Dota 2's Compendium. It has the more modern style of complete in-game challenges to gain ranks or tiers on the Battle Pass. Though these were in games as early as 2012, they weren't a very popular implementation until 2017. Yet again, we have Fortnite to thank for the popularization of the Battle Pass in its current form. They simply refined Dota's formula, complete with season-exclusive skins. This created the fear of missing out effect, with counts with OG items fetching a pretty penny today. Not even Epic knew how effective the Battle Pass was going to be. On the first day of Chapter 1, Season 3, Epic sold a staggering 5 million battle passes. Costing $10 a piece, the idea of making $50 million on a battle pass alone was absolutely insane, and this again led to other companies scrambling to make their own implementations of it in their games. Rocket League has the Rocket Pass, Halo Infinite got a battle pass, and most multiplayer games today are releasing with battle passes. They're just an extremely effective way to monetize your game. However, when you have all the same implementations in so many games, something just feels kind of samey about all of them. It could also be that most games are just owned by the same companies. Microsoft literally owns 10% of the gaming industry. They own giants like Activision Blizzard, Bethesda, Mojang, and Rare. That isn't even half of the companies just Microsoft owns. Sony owns Naughty Dog, Insomniac Games, and Bluepoint Games. Epic owns Psyonix and Unreal Engine, which is a very popular game engine responsible for many of your favorite games. What this corporate push in the industry has led to is all of these smaller studios working under pretty much the same rules. They are all trying to appease the same person, whether it be Microsoft, Epic, or Sony. What this has also led to is massive companies having all the money and talent in the world to throw at making new games. This doesn't seem like a bad thing on the surface, but remember, these large companies don't have the player in mind. They are solely focused on making money, and this in turn has led to these companies creating a hyper-competitive space for the multiplayer scene. For example, Splitgate had to shut down as they were unable to keep people interested for long enough. This is by no fault of the game, it's just that the industry isn't the same place it was even 5 years ago. If you want to compete in the multiplayer industry, you have to compete with some of the biggest companies in the world. That isn't to say that there aren't any games coming out that break the mold. Look at a game like Elden Ring, for example. But they seem to be fewer and further between. This has led to stagnation in the industry, which is only going to lead itself on a downward trend. When everything feels the same, nothing is new. And looking at the sentiment of other people who grew up playing games, I know I'm not alone in this. Even looking at the consumer base for content, you can see that gaming is on a downward trend. YouTube gaming hasn't been able to reach consistent highs since 2020. Twitch's graph might throw some people off, but there's an answer to why Twitch is still gaining despite gaming's apparent downfall. If you go to Twitch right now, unless there's an esport tournament with drops, I can guarantee you that just chatting is by far the most popular category on Twitch. This has been the case since February 2020, and just chatting has not given up the #1 spot for overall monthly viewers on Twitch since. Most of this content isn't gaming, rather the streamers interacting with their audiences and watching videos with them and stuff. What this shows us is that less and less people are interested in consuming gaming content. Even with games feeling samey though, they are still unique games, each with their own large fan bases, hundreds of content creators, and thousands of people buying the battle passes and skins. How could gaming be on a downward trend when these games still seem to be thriving? Let's look at a game we haven't really picked apart yet. Apex Legends is a battle royale made by EA in the Titanfall universe. Its selling point is its unique movement and its Legends mechanic, which is similar to TF2's classes or Overwatch's heroes. Sounds like a pretty fun game, right? Well, the game has long suffered from things like broken abilities, hit reg issues, and audio bugs. In response, many of the content creators in that space started a movement called No Apex August. It was exactly how it sounded. The players were going to go on strike to protest EA not fixing their game. It seemed to have failed quite spectacularly. However, it seemed to have spooked EA enough to make some real quality of life changes in the Season 14 update in early August. Warzone was and still is notorious for having an abysmal anti-cheat. You would think that after 2.5 years, a company as large as Activision Blizzard / Microsoft would be able to put a functioning anti-cheat in the game. Yet with all the issues with cheating, people still play the game, people still buy the skins, and people still buy the battle pass. The thing with these large corporations is they are perfectly content with not fixing something unless they absolutely have to. We've seen it time and time again with these games. Warzone and Apex are prime examples of this. Apex only put in effort when their precious player base threatened to stop playing. Warzone hasn't seen much of a similar movement, so only time will tell to see if they ever really get a better anti-cheat. The thing about games these days is it's literally all about the money. Why else would someone charge $45 for a skin bundle? That is almost the price of a AAA game. One of the main things I think about when I buy something is, what is it going to do for me? For example, I obviously need to buy food and water, but let's say I want to buy something for recreation. If I had $60, I could get, say, a new mouse, a brand new game, or a 2-skin bundle on Valorant. Now obviously, using my little formula from earlier, a new mouse would be useful for my setup. A new game would provide hours of enjoyment, and the Valorant skins would just look kinda cool. And it's not that the skins are bad, or that skins in general are bad, but the prices are starting to get ridiculous. And with every game raising the bar higher and higher on them, it seems like we're going to be approaching $100 skins. And remember, these aren't skins that are tradable and marketable between players like in CSGO and TF2. These are skins that are locked to your account. Back on Black Ops 2, if you wanted to get a pretty nice looking skin you could put on any gun, it only cost a whopping $2. And obviously they weren't going to get away with charging modern microtransaction prices back in 2012. But what's happened since then to inflate the prices of skins that high? Well, the move to free-to-play seems to be the main justification. Companies charge more for skins to recoup the cost of the game being free. It seems reasonable until it really just isn't. One of the main ideas for the game that started this model, Fortnite, its monetization was built on gaming as a service. This is essentially have a game kind of like a subscription service. Think of World of Warcraft. Fortnite wasn't made like World of Warcraft though, however, as it's completely free to play. Rather than charging players for the game itself, Fortnite obviously chose to charge for the battle pass and skins. The idea behind this is to get a player kind of hooked on it like you would get someone hooked in on a show on a streaming service. If you are more dedicated to a game, then you're much more likely to buy the battle pass and skins for it. And it's easier to justify it since the game is free. Fortnite was such a craze that millions of dedicated fans are ready to buy the next battle pass, with millions more ready to buy the new skins from the item shop. The success of Fortnite was not only no more than Epic could have ever hoped for, but it was also the catalyst that kickstarted this trend. The free-to-play experience is definitely not what it was 10 years ago. From its humble beginnings as flash games and obscure Steam games, to every popular multiplayer game being free, it has definitely evolved. The most popular titles are just a few clicks away, and that cool skin your teammate has is just a couple more clips. Plus your kidneys. Hey, so I know this took a while to get out. Just wanted to tackle a bit more of a deep analysis on a topic, and it took me a few tries to get the script somewhere where I thought it would make a quality video. But anyways, just wanted to thank anyone who watched this far. If you liked it, go ahead and leave a like, and if it's something that you want to see more of, consider subscribing. Thank you.